Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hey everyone, Brian Zane here. Well, it's a crazy time here at the Zane household. We're boxing everything up. We're just about ready to move everything up to Oregon. And don't worry, because of course, the side characters are all coming with me too. Right, guys?
This is bullcrap. I asked for a plate of muffins in a 3-star hotel, but now I gotta share a box with this guy? Casse-toi, old man, or I take the pilly gimmick. I need them, for I am model. I'm Captain Lou, and I'm talking to you. This Ben's got the brain of a dehydrated baby. Benny, Benny, Benny.
Abeyance, your elbow's in my eye.
Well, your knee is halfway up my hole, and I'll give you one guess as to which one I'm referring to. Hey, at least you're not in some weird display like Mike up there.
It's not so bad, you guys, though I do miss taking people to Dick Kick City. All I got is headbutts now. Okay, well, I'm pretty excited about the move. The great thing about my job is I can do it from pretty much anywhere, and I know that no matter where I go, my online experience is going to be safe thanks to Surfshark VPN. It encrypts my personal data so no one can track or steal it even on public Wi-Fi. Surfshark's available on all my devices, so that means no matter where I'm going or what I'm doing, I'm covered. And if I want to watch movies with the family we can't get in America, I just switch to another server from anywhere in the world to get access to them. There's so many other great benefits to having Surfshark, and it comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Help support the channel by downloading Surfshark with the link below. Use the code WREGRET to get 83% off and an extra 3 months of service thrown in. Thanks and enjoy the review.
Hey man, do you think you're ever coming back out? No doubt about it, I do not. Yeah, beaches and sneeches, me neither probably.
It's time to look back at another classic SummerSlam here in the month of August, and I'm very excited to watch this one because I've never seen it all the way through before. I've always been told, I've always read and heard that it's supposed to be one of the best SummerSlams of all time. Of course, this is from a very pivotal year in the company's history where everything feels very heightened and more important, so we'll see if that actually plays out here as I watch it. It's time to watch SummerSlam 1997, Heart and Soul, from August 3rd at the Continental Airlines Arena, formerly the Meadowlands, at East Rutherford, New Jersey. This show was nominated by Nicholas Tedesco, Niall Witherspoon, and Alan Jolly over on patreon.com/wrestlingwithregret. This is the Federation's return to New Jersey, at least on a televised basis, for the first time in 8 years. There were restrictive taxes that would have hurt WWF if they performed and did shows, did televised shows there, but recently the governor of New Jersey lifted those taxes, and then we'll see how that plays out in a nice little bit of PR as the show goes on. But it is the company's first time back doing a show, doing a pay-per-view in New Jersey in almost a decade, which is a big deal. The build for the whole show and the opening package focuses on the conflict with Bret, Undertaker, and Shawn Michaels. I love the story here. If life were fair, we'd still have clear heroes and villains. If life were fair, people would be cheering Bret, but he's upset about America. If life were fair, this man would still be dancing, flying, not looking for his lost smile. The narration and the prose they had for packages around this time were simply exquisite. 20,213 folks were in attendance, setting a new record for the Federation in that building. 235,000 pay-per-view buys, up significantly from 157,000 the previous year. Vincent Mann, Jim Ross, and Jerry Lawler on the call tonight. Your opening match is a big old grudge match here with two rivals who have been fighting in the several months before this and will go on to fight several years after this. It's a steel cage match, rare cage opener as Hunter Hearst Helmsley with China takes on Mankind. Like I said, these guys have been fighting over and over again during the spring and summer in different variations and match types. Trips beat Mankind in the finals of the King of the Ring tournament. Their last match was a Canadian Stampede when they just brawled all over the arena. We get that classic stout blue cage. Not a very tall cage in this one, but it looks incredibly painful. I'm sure the wrestlers appreciated the transition from those big metal bars to the chain link for cages, but you know, from a viewer perspective, I gotta say, it just looks cooler, it looks nicer, looks like a real cage. Although I would really hate to try and run the ropes with that thing because you see him just like smacking the cage back first. That looks like it would suck. And oh my god, the pop Mankind gets here. Like, what a great great peak to what you could call kind of a PR campaign, a real big push to make Mick Foley, Mankind, this beloved babyface character, not just with the conflict for several months with Hunter Hearst Helmsley, also the big interviews that Jim Ross did with him earlier in the year where it explains the origins of the Dude Love character and Cactus Jack's past and everything. And also for the last month or so, he was campaigning to be Steve Austin's tag team partner in the tag title tournament, which ultimately led to the debut of Dude Love as an in-ring gimmick, which I think is one of the top moments of the Attitude Era, just the way he debuts. You see the feet walking down with the beat playing as it goes to commercial break. Then he comes out and he debuts with this persona and helps Steve. It's really cool and really funny, but there's so little connection between that storyline with Austin, Dude Love, and the tag titles, and anything going on here. You wouldn't even know those guys are tag champs based on watching this show in a bubble, because it's really not regarded. And also, he's not Dude Love, is Mick Foley. He's Mankind once again. I always thought that was very weird that he could just kind of change characters just depending on if the plot required it, not like some big transformative thing, like say for Finn Balor, but it's just like, oh, I'm Dude Love now, and it's like, I don't know, it just felt like it was kind of awkward for him to go back to Mankind so suddenly here. Triple H tries to dive out the onset, but he's not so lucky. Mankind on top at the beginning, hitting the pile driver. Mankind with a mandible claw, but Chyna interjecting herself through the bars. Foley tries to escape, but then bam, punched right in the yam bags. Helmsley with a superplex off the top of the cage. There's zero give to that ring. No thank you to that bump. Hunter chooses to stay in the cage to lay in some more punishment. Foley getting slammed into the cage wall. The H-Dog wants to leave, but Mankind stops him. A nice fight with Helmsley's leg kind of bent over the cage wall there. Chyna interferes once again with a forearm. H's suplex is blocked. Mankind hanging him upside down on the wall and attacking. Goes for a running something, but gets backdropped into the wall himself. H is crotched and tied up. Mankind looks to have it won, but then Chyna blasts Mankind in the head with a cage door. Talk about concussion city. Then she lays out the referee, brings a chair into the ring, but it backfires. Chyna takes a tumble. Mankind begins to climb his way out of the cage. Chyna jumps her cue, enters and leaves, but then Foley climbs back up, takes the mask off, and shades of Superfly Snuka when he leapt off the cage in the garden. He leaps off the top, hits the elbow. By the way, you can see Mankind tearing his shirt a little bit before the dive, and I think the story they're trying to tell there is it's supposed to be the re-debut, the re-emergence of Dude Love in this match where Foley transforms mid-match, and it's supposed to be a heart painted on his chest, but as the story goes, he sweat so much the course of the match, the paint had all melted away, so you see a big red splotch on his stomach or his chest, and the announce team tries to cover up for it in the aftermath. Mankind climbing out as Chyna then hits the right cue and tries to drag Helmsley out to no avail. Mankind wins this match. Then after a very long delay of no music, Dude Love's music plays. We get the toe tapping. We get the toe tapping. Dude Love is here now, and boy, that whole thing could have been executed a whole lot better. I give this one 4 stars out of 5. I love this opening contest. I think the added element of the cage really added a lot to this matchup. I love the story they told. Great physicality here. Both guys making each other look very good. The story of Chyna getting involved and kind of getting her comeuppance in the end, I thought was great. Wonky ending, and the way they tried to convey the transformation into Dude Love aside, I still think it was a tremendous match. We're killing some time as they break down the cage. Tod Pettengil, in his final WWF pay-per-view appearance, he welcomes Governor Christy Todd Whitman. Did you know Whitman served 2 terms as governor from 1994 to 2001 and remains the only female to have been elected governor of New Jersey in the state's history? Neat. Accompanied by Gorilla Monsoon, the Headbangers, and a bevy of boos from the crowd. Whitman says New Jersey is ready to rumble. Monsoon awards her an honorary championship belt for getting rid of those mean old taxes. Elsewhere at ringside, we see Tiger Jeet Singh and his son, future WWF star Tiger Ali Singh. Oh boy, Tiger Ali is in for a world of hurt. We then get a recap of the beach party in the parking lot earlier. Beach party in the parking lot. And on we go now to Goldust taking on the Hart Foundation's Brian Pillman, where if Pillman loses, he must wear a dress for the next month. Goldust and Pillman have been feuding for months at this point since Goldust turned babyface and he was part of the Team America contingent for Canadian Stampede. There's actually some real-life tension in this feud that was brought up in the storyline as Marlena, Terry Runnels, and Dustin Rhodes' wife actually dated Brian Pillman for a bit in WCW before she dated Dustin. Goldust starting out strong, hits the back elbow out of the corner and plants a big old kiss on Shawn Pillman. Pillman chases Marlena around the ring. He takes a big clothesline from Goldust for his troubles. Pillman goes up top, but Goldust cuts him off, throws him, and we get a rough landing by Bryan. Pillman using Marlena as a shield, which allows him to take over. We get a top rope clothesline. Rhodes fighting out of the sleeper, but walks right into another line. Pillman's just covered in Goldust's face paint at this point. He's wearing more than Goldust is. Goldust with a comeback, hits the flip-flop and fly, goes for a horrendous-looking sunset flip attempt, but they fight for it. Marlena reaches in and decks Pillman with a loaded purse when the referee can't see. The 3 count and Goldust wins, only now he's a couple inches shorter. I give it 1.5 stars out of 5. The match was decent. You know, Brian Pillman still kind of on the mend. He was never really the same after his second ankle surgery, and you know, that he was not at his best here, not in his WCW prime in 1997, obviously, but I think these two were still able to put out like a decent matchup. These two would have a rematch the next month at Ground Zero that saw much higher stakes, and Pillman ends up winning and keeping Marlena as his like plaything basically after Marlena accidentally hits Goldust with a loaded purse. On we go to a tag team match as the Legion of Doom take on Henry and Phineas, the Godwinns. Now, a couple of months earlier on Shotgun Saturday Night, these two had a match, and Henry ended up breaking one of the vertebrae in his neck at taking a Doomsday device, and apparently he was supposed to be able to rest and just recover after like 4 months, but he comes back in 2, comes back really early, and so he and Phineas beat up Animal and Hawk a lot, they slopped them and all that stuff, but I'm like, how did he come back so soon? Like, he had, one of those minor neck breaks you hear so much about, because I'm so used to hearing stories in wrestling of like Steve Austin, Kurt Angle, Edge, and Chris Benoit, and Rhino, and all these folks who have these neck surgeries that take them a year to take off, but like somehow Henry just dodges the biggest bullet and is able to come back after taking a broken neck for like 2 months, and he's still like in working shape. What the hell? How is this not being lauded as some modern medical miracle? Also, good lord, the Godwinns are both taller than Legion of Doom. I couldn't believe that. Early on, Henry and Phineas try some double teaming on Animal, but he fights back. Henry goes for a leg drop over the top, but Hawk moves. Phineas hanging Hawk up by the neck over his back. Animal's distracted by Phineas, and he waits all day for Henry to hit him out of the ring. Hey, Captain Lou's sitting at ringside. Billy, 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 indeed. Animal in a bear hug. He fights out of it, takes some more of the heat. Phineas completes the flying nothing, but walks right into a clothesline. Hawk and Henry with a hot tag. Big neck breaker to the man with a broken neck. That's smart. Doomsday device attempt is broken up, but they give him a spike pile driver. Jesus. They get the 3 count, but Henry kicks out at 3.5 for some reason. So what the hell does it mean? I give it 2 stars out of 5. This was another kind of okay match. Hard hitting. Again, Henry kicking out as soon as he did, like right after the pile driver and the 3 count. Like, either it's a devastating move to the broken neck man or it isn't. You know, pick one or the other. I was, scary that he would be willing to take those spots again so soon, but there it is. Well, if you thought they killed a lot of time after the cage match, then you are not going to believe what we have next here on this show. It's contest time. Time to see who could win, possibly the $1 million in cash hidden in the casket in a partnership with Discovery Zone. Gotta remember that place. Anyway, the whole thing was they would give you clues every week on TV to basically apply and enter into the contest. And it's not like it was a secret. They told you everything, what the clues all were at the end of like the whole thing. So it's not like you had to really watch Raw every week to win the money. But they would call people live on the air, very similar to like the $1 Million Mania many years later, where they'd call people and like people wouldn't answer or they'd be disconnected. And it's the perfect form of live television. Guys like Vince McMahon and Tod Pettengil having a real hard time dealing with a touch-tone phone and trying to call these prospective contest winners and applicants and stuff. That on TV alone was heinous, but it takes us to a whole new level when it actually comes time to the prize portion of the contest at this pay-per-view. So 2 of the contest entrants are there in person, and they do not look happy to be there. We get Ryan Chaddock and Patrick Stevenson, aka Not Good Mic Work. They each grab a key from one of 100 on the board. Then Todd and Sonny call up some other entrants to do it over the phone. Todd gets a couple of free looks, by the way. First number, no answer. Second number, disconnected. Third number, it's some guy. Man, what an agonizing process. Sonny opens the first key, no luck. Now they do the whole thing again, complete with the phone call with Sable. Sable tries to use the key, no luck. Ryan's key is no good. Patrick's key is no good. They show which key would have won. They open the casket and wow, look at all those ones. Isn't that impressive? Great googly moogly. What a tremendous waste of time this was. I mean, I thought there was some funny funny moments at least. Like Tod Pettengil trying to keep this show on the road in spite of all the obstacles in his way was entertaining. But then of course, like, nobody wins the money. Like, you know, it's just so awkward, and, you know, so much time could be spent doing other more constructive things than this contest that ultimately did nothing for them. Up next, more fallout from Canadian Stampede as the British Bulldog defends his European Championship against Ken Shamrock. Not only is the Bulldog's largely ignored European Championship on the line here, he has promised to eat dog food right after the match if he loses. Somewhere, a young Baron Corbin's watching this show and gets a brilliant idea. Shamrock with happy feet in the early goings of the match. Big overhead suplex. Bulldog continues to bump his ass off at the start, but then lays Ken out with a clothesline and takes over. Bulldog with a blatant dick kick city in the corner. On the outside, Bulldog threatens to crush his opponent with the steel steps, but is stopped. Lawler protests, saying, "That would have been good." Shamrock starts to come back, but then Bulldog with another blatant shot to the balls. Ken just falls over when Bulldog goes for a suplex. Ken with one of his best party tricks, bleeding from the mouth, as Davey Boy reapplies the chin lock. Back on the outside, Bulldog smacks some dog food into Ken's face, and he just snaps. He pelts Bulldog with a dog food can in the back of the head. That looked like it sucked. Ken gets disqualified despite Bulldog's repeated nut shots at the beginning. He attacks the referee, chokes out Bulldog, suplexes Patterson and Briscoe and a couple of refs. The crowd is loving all of this, by the way. I give it 1.5 stars out of 5. The match was a little rough, a little botchy at times, but I think the crowd was still super into Ken, regardless of all that. Even though the finish was disappointing, I think that it still got Shamrock's character over in a huge way, and the crowd really responded to that. But I think they kind of went to the well with that a few too many times for Ken, because how often during his run in this company over the years did we see him like either win by disqualification and save face afterward, or lose by disqualification because he was too like in the zone? We saw a lot of that throughout his career this time, and I felt this is only the beginning. The Todsters backstage with Shawn Michaels, the guest referee for the main event. Shawn makes it clear he will be a fair, unbiased referee and that nothing will get past his keen eye. Sure, Jan. Up next, is it a 10-man, no Vince, and 8-man tag team match as Los Boricuas take on the Disciples of Apocalypse. Savio Vega and Crush were recently fired from the Nation of Domination, and they went out to form their own stables to counteract that. Crush forming the DOA with Skull, 8-Ball, and Chains. Savio Vega forming Los Boricuas with Miguel Perez, Jose Estrada, and Jesus Castillo. My favorite part of the build here, first of all, I'm not sure why these two teams are particularly fighting each other, because they should have a common enemy in Farouk and the Nation, but they're going after each other here a lot too. So anyway, one of my favorite parts of this build is an episode of Raw where both teams kind of roll up to the arena in their respective vehicles, motorcycles and the lowrider for the Boricuas. At the beginning of the second hour of the show, Savio Vega interrupts everything. He's like, "There's been an accident. You have to come with me, cameraman. There's been a terrible accident backstage." The cameraman follows him through the arena to the outside where all the vehicles are parked. "Hey, there's 3 bikes here. Where's the other one?" Camera pans and zooms way down, like halfway through this like 200-foot hangar, and one of the dudes from Los Boricuas is just going bang, bang, like smashing the bike with a trash can. He doesn't start doing it until the camera moves over there. I thought it was one of the funniest fucking things, and honestly, almost redeemed the entire Gang Wars saga for me was that one moment. Also, check out Chains here. Last time we saw him, he was main eventing SummerSlam 94. DOA debuting their new theme on the show as they ride around the ring. The match begins with some fists flying, Jose bouncing all over the place early on. Miguel Perez, one look at him and all I can think is, man, I thought I was a hairy guy. Love Savio's heel kick that sends him over the top rope. Boricua's using some sneaky tactics to quadruple team. Suddenly through the crowd, in come the Nation of Domination. The Nation surrounds the ring as the match continues, and continue it does. Chains with a hot tag, he's on a roll. Brawling ensues. On the outside, Ahmed is decked by Chains. He hits the Pearl River plunge in response. Chains is pinned and Los Boricuas win. A big 3-team brawl breaks out. We have ourselves a good old gang war. Crush almost running some people over with his Titan bike. I give this match 1 star out of 5. I feel that it should have ended right around the time the Nation actually hit the ring, not like 3 minutes after the fact that they stand there playing the waiting game. The match started out strong, but then it just kind of became this kind of like schmoz, kind of brawl thing. Just a harbinger of things to come for the rest of this year when they'd have this endless feud with Boricuas and DOA. But one night later on Raw, the angle continues to get snake bit because Ahmed Johnson's in a match. He would hit his finisher in the ring and re-injure his knee in the process. He'd be out out for another several months, unfortunately. His spot in the nation would be taken 1 week later by Rocky Maivia. Wonder whatever happened to him. Well, folks, many of us are familiar with this next part of the story, and chances are, even if you've never seen SummerSlam 97, you have seen some moments from this next matchup for the Intercontinental Championship as the Hart Foundation's Owen Hart defends against Stone Cold Steve Austin. Stone Cold, of course, on a huge surge of momentum. He's basically the number 2 babyface in the company besides The Undertaker. And I say the word babyface kind of loosely because he is still very much technically a tweener leaning heel at this point in his career. There is a point in Austin's main run in 98 where he definitely leans more babyface. We are not there yet. Austin is still very much a cantankerous son of a bitch who heels on just about everybody, including Mankind. As we saw, he was trying to be his partner and everything. The fans love him in spite of all that, or they hate him a lot if he's in Canada. He's so popular, like I mentioned, he's currently co-tag team champion with Dude Love, which again, given the last couple months of programming compared to this show, it feels like the tag title thing is really a nothing issue. It's rarely brought up. I'm pretty sure Austin doesn't even come out with a tag belt for the entrance for this matchup. Owen had pinned Stone Cold in that 10-man tag match at Canadian Stampede, leading to this match for Owen's title. Go watch my review of that show if you haven't yet. One part of the feud that really gets glossed over, like in historic retellings of this matchup, is that there was actually a kiss my ass element to this matchup where Austin said if he couldn't beat Owen, he would kiss his ass. If he couldn't kick his ass, he would kiss it, and that was the bottom line. But it gets totally glossed over for good reason, though. There's a cool bit moments before Austin's entrance backstage where a young Michael Cole in his pay-per-view debut comes up to him and starts asking questions, but Austin's having none of it. We see him come through the curtain. What a great shot this was. Owen presses X to break up the entrance and goes for the leg right away, but Austin comes back with a Fez press. Owen taking Bret's corner bump even. The action slows down for a minute. They get on the outside where Owen pulls Austin into the ring post and goes for his arm, starts biting his hand, going for the joint manipulation. Lots of smooth work with these two here. Owen eventually begins to work on Austin's neck, hitting a German, locking in the camel clutch, making him humble. Austin fights out of it. Sleeper attempt, jawbreaker. Owen gets caught using the ropes for leverage and a chin lock. We get the tilt-a-whirl, then we get that move, the pile driver that broke Austin's neck and changed the course of both men's careers instantly. Owen's got to kill a lot of time as Austin fights to regain any kind of movement or control in his body. It's always so damn hard to watch this thing here. Austin somehow, in spite of himself, rolls up Owen in an understandably bad-looking roll-up. Austin wins the IC title, but immediately, of course, has to give it up. I give it 3 stars out of 5. It was a good match. It was a fine match until what happened and really put a damper on everything. And, it's really unfortunate to hear the story of everything that led up to this because, Austin from the beginning was hesitant to be dropped right on his head with Owen taking the bump on his ass because, Austin asked, can you go on your knees? And Owen said, no, I'll do it on my ass and it's fine. And Austin trusted Owen with it. And unfortunately, accidents happen. There is a bit of irony, a bit of karma in this one because it was the very same spot that Austin did to Masahiro Chono many years earlier that caused Chono's neck to be injured. And yeah, those two were never really able to patch things up before Owen passed away. Owen obviously suffered very heavily politically for doing that. Like I said, both men's careers were changed in an instant for this one. We talk about this moment now in very reverent tones and everything in recaps because the fact that Austin was able to recover and go on to become the biggest star of all time. It'd be a very different story if anything else had happened. There's so many what ifs from this particular match and this particular moment that all get kind of dashed away with this injury, and sadly it's really the only thing that people think about with this matchup. Another part of the build that's never followed up on TV is that all these Hart Foundation members made special wagers in their matches, like Brian Pillman would wear a dress if he lost, the Bulldog would eat dog food, Bret Hart would leave the United States, and so on. And Jim Neidhart, who was a member of the group, he had a wager of his own where if any member of his team lost a match at SummerSlam, he would shave his trademark goatee. But shortly before the pay-per-view and for a while after, Jimmy Jam is nowhere to be seen. And of course, Owen and Pillman lost their matches on pay-per-view, but the stipulation, the self-imposed stipulation that Neidhart puts on himself for the shaving the goatee, never followed up on.
And that promise is in the SummerSlam. Stone Cold Steve Austin in the SummerSlam. The World Wrestling Federation title match with The Undertaker in the SummerSlam. He only got a taste of it last night in the SummerSlam. And after the SummerSlam...
It's time now for the main event for the WWF Championship as The Undertaker defends against Bret the Hitman Hart with Shawn Michaels as the special guest referee. Well, of course, Bret and his foundation of Hearts have been on a roll in the World Wrestling Federation. They reformed after WrestleMania 13 when Bret completed his heel turn against Steve Austin in the submission matchup. Then the day after Canadian Stampede when they won the tag team match, Bret was awarded the #1 contendership to Undertaker's championship. Bret, of course, leading the anti-USA, pro-Canada storyline that has really gripped this company, and it's really helping, it's cliche to talk about it now. It's been talked about to death, but it really can't be overstated or oversold just how big this particular time was for the company and how it was changing its creative and how it was trying to work more toward like that blurring the lines between kayfabe and reality sort of thing. We're seeing it a lot with Bret in this as well because, of course, Shawn Michaels earlier in the year, he lost his smile because he didn't want a job to Bret Hart at WrestleMania, didn't want to return the favor, so he left, he vacated the championship. He comes back several months later, he's back, he asks Vin Man for a spot on SummerSlam. Then 1 week later, we find out that Shawn is going to be the guest referee in the championship match, which pisses Bret off tremendously. Of course, they have a big rivalry, not just in kayfabe, but at this point, it's definitely in real life. These two are feuding. So we get that big moment where Bret confronts Vince at the announce table. Like, it's not a case of, oh, Mr. McMahon is born in Survivor Series. No, they were planting the seeds for a very long time. Like, Vince at this point is pretty much known. He's the owner of the company. It's not a poorly kept secret anymore. It's as part of the public knowledge, basically. And they're just, he's not really affecting storylines the level he would as Mr. McMahon, but he's like definitely on his way there. And it's just really fascinating to see like the wheels turning and seeing these things happening here. And oh yeah, I almost forgot, the champion, 1/3 of this equation, who's honestly the least important part of this story based on how they're building it, because Taker, he's the champion and everything. He's been champ since WrestleMania, but at this point, he is just like knee deep in the pending feud and the build with Kane, who's going to be coming soon in a few months. So he's doing his stuff with Paul Bear, he's fighting Vader and all that stuff. He's got nothing to do with Bret really leading into this thing. So it's just, he's there as a matter of circumstance at this point. High stakes in this matchup. If Bret does not win the championship, he vows to never wrestle in the US again. Also, if Shawn costs Bret the match or shows any favoritism, he will also be banned from the States. Bret decks Taker with the belt before the bell rings and jumps him like it's a hockey fight. Taker with the bop 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 bops in the corner after the opening bell rings and we're underway. Undertaker showing off the strength early on, but Bret begins to attack the leg, has him in the figure 4 when suddenly Paul Bearer appears. Taker eventually fights out, gets a moment to beat up Paul. Taker punches Paul. At the same time, Bret chop blocks Taker, and the way all three guys fall is pretty hilarious. Figure 4 around the ring post. Bret gets in Shawn's face for the first time here. Now Owen Hart and Brian Pillman appear at ringside as the match continues. Any more cameos you want to throw into this thing? Taker fights out of the leg lock, beats up Owen and Pillman to send them off. Chokeslam to Bret, but Shawn's preoccupied, and exaggeratedly so. Bret hits some of his moves of doom, the double deuce before dropping the elbow, goes for the sharpshooter, but Taker with the goozle to break it up. Taker getting some offense in as Jim Ross complimenting Shawn on his consistent counts. Chokeslam from the apron to the ring. Bret comes back with a superplex, gets the sharpshooter locked in, but Taker simply powers out. Bret looks upset. Sharpshooter again around the ring post. Bret falls off the apron and into Michaels. This gives Bret the chance to dink Taker with a chair. The cover, the kick out. Shawn takes the chair from Bret. Bret spits in Shawn's face. Shawn goes to strike Bret, but dinks Taker instead. Shawn making a very reluctant 3 count, and Bret Hart wins the match, becoming the second man to win the WWF title for a 5th time after Hulk Hogan. The fans are pissed. All the Hart Foundation, except for Jimmy Jam Neidhart, are celebrating as we fade to black. I'm going to give this one 3.5 stars out of 5. The match itself I thought was like okay, kind of slow at times, and I thought that the run-ins or the cameos with Paul Bear and Owen and Pillman felt kind of extra at points. The story with Bret and Shawn is really good in this matchup. Unfortunately, the Taker could be literally anyone in that matchup, and it wouldn't have made much of a difference who the champion was, because the story is all about Shawn and Bret. I don't understand why we never got a triple threat match out of this conflict, but the directions everyone's going in. Like Shawn's going to be fighting Bulldog at the UK pay-per-view. Taker is still dealing with the impending arrival of Kane. And then there's, Bret going against the Patriot. But I can understand the short term why that triple threat match never really happened. But yeah, that finish with Bret and Shawn and the chair, iconic moment. That really puts it over the edge for me and gives it a bit of a higher rating here. So it was, definitely a dramatic ending with a lot of stakes behind it. You didn't really know how it was going to turn out that way, but I think that was, a tremendous finish to the match and a tremendous end to the pay-per-view, how it just ends with a big gut punch. The fans are so pissed, throwing garbage in the ring and stuff. I think that's a tremendous SummerSlam moment, and really kind of like, it's the peak of that heel Bret mode for sure. My grade for SummerSlam 1997, Heart and Soul, is a C+. I might be a little harsh on this one. Everyone talks about how great this show was. Is it a pivotal show? Yeah, absolutely. It's a historic show for a lot of reasons, both like kayfabe and in real life and everything. But I don't think I would call the show great overall. Like, fantastic opener in the cage with Mankind and Triple H. Great ending to the main event, a great story there. Austin and Owen could easily have been up in that upper echelon of things that could have helped save this show. But again, the pile driver happens, bums everyone out, and really puts a damp squib on the whole show at large, I think. I think we'd be saying a different story about the show in general if that match ended just the way it was supposed to and there was no injury, and obviously the course of wrestling history would be very different. But no, I think besides like a strong opening and a strong ending, the rest of the show is a lot of wasted time and a lot of not great matches. We are done for the time being with classic SummerSlam, so now for the next couple of installments, we're going to do kind of a wild card thing. No real theme or rhyme or reason for my next couple of picks per se. This one I'm excited for just because I had a lot of people nominate for this show on Patreon back in the day, and I've been putting it off, and you know what? Might as well do it now. It's going to be Vengeance 2003. Really looking forward to that one. But until then, folks, I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.